So let's move into this section where we're talking about allyship, and I am so excited to introduce you to our first speaker. He is, as you know, he's from Barclays. He's one of the lead sponsors of today's summit. He's the head of Group Technology Service Management at Barclays, and he's going to be asking, are men part of the solution for gender balance? And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage Ilker Yaman. Ilker, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
A lot of people still, quite scary. So please bear with me. My first ever time doing such an event, and I'll refer back to it a bit later on. But if you don't mind, just a couple of personal and professional insights which might help give some context into my thought process about what an ally means. So born in Turkey, raised by maternal grandmother, came to the UK, raised by grandmother and mother. Quite enjoyable being the main English speaker in the household. Quite a burden, quite an advantage as well, going to parent-teacher evenings and translating how well I'm doing at school to my parents. They cottoned onto that quite. Maybe in my sort of last year at school, they brought a friend who knew English as well, and they were a bit surprised with my results. So, went straight from a strong grandmother and a strong mother to a very strong, passionate wife, who's an amazing lady, but very, very strong. I have a son, 19, who's the laziest, laid-back individual in the world, and things just work out for him, or so he thinks. And I have a daughter who's amazingly smart, 21. She's got my wife's independence and determination, but unfortunately she's got my logic. And then when they start having discussions, both look to me to be the referee, which is obviously a very dangerous situation for any person's marriage. When you agree with your daughter logically, but no way can you ever say that. Switching to more of a professional insight, left school was 16, 17 years of age with no negligible sort of qualifications. Somehow stumbled into my first job in technology in a data processing team within a chartered surveyors company. Now, that data processing team was 9 female individuals and me. So actually my first 4 senior managers for the next 5 roles I had over the next 7, 8 years were all female directors running the function. And I say all this is not because I'm sort of trying to make a point, but apart from I thought having a strong personal matriarchal upbringing and a very strong female-led career path, you'd think I'm quite rocket-proof when it comes to diversity because I know and I've sort of lived it in this as well. However, that's not the case. So I've had a 20-odd year career now in technology within financial institutions, worked around 4 or 5 different financial institutions. And somehow I've had a career and reached a level, most people still look at me and go, how did you do this? And I said, I have no idea. I'm not passionate about technology. I'm not passionate about financial institutions. And I've been quite open about this when I've gone for roles and spoken to HR. They said, yeah, they laughed it off. They think I was joking, but it wasn't. But what I've managed to find is a level of middle ground between the business and the technical, which relies a lot on emotional and intelligence and people skills and common sense. And it worked out to be a career, which is brilliant. So I say that is that I've sort of met many, many talented technologists and amazing female individuals, yet somehow I've still had a career where they need the help and I didn't. So even despite my professional background and my personal upbringing, I thought I was doing very well being a D&I sponsor, an ally, a change champion, whatever you want to call it. And I think I was for a long, long time. I did all the events that was asked of me. I promoted, I interviewed, I sponsored, I coached, I did everything I could possibly. But then when I looked around actually what I'd achieved, whilst there was some great successes throughout, and people who were promoted from my first time running a team 18 years ago, still contact me today and say, and even one called me this morning, after she stopped laughing that I'm actually having a speech at this event, because she was sort of a bit shocked. She said some very nice, sweet things. So it's sort of, there has been, over the last 18 years, great successes. But then when I step back and look at the leadership shadow that I now cast, apparently, am I really returning that much return on investment in how much I'm putting in? And do I really deserve the ally badge that I've been shouting loudly and proudly for the last few years? And to be honest, I don't think I quite do. And that's a personal reflection of the last year or two, because despite me thinking I'm doing all the right things, and I still think I am, I'm not making the situation worse, but at best I'm inching it along. So when I started thinking about what do I need to do differently, I didn't sort of come to the conclusion that I needed to change. What I needed to do is be a bit more visible. We were talking earlier on about visible sponsorship and visible coaching. So everything I had done up until about 2 years ago was always supporting the DE&I initiatives, being there for the groups, helping one-on-one coaching, sponsoring, etc. Where there was funding needed for an event, I went and found the funding. If there's something to be done, I went and did that, but all in the background. And I was quite comfortable in the background. But one of the things that really struck me is that I'm not visibly showing and sponsoring DE&I in the workplace. Hence, you've got me speaking today. I would never have done this. This is so far out of my comfort zone, but there's no point in me preaching to a converted audience in my own team if I don't actually sort of show that visibility wider. And so the changes I've made have been very low touch and very simple, but I think they're becoming effective. Like I said, it starts with visible sponsorship. So now doing something like this is way out of my comfort zone, like I said, but I do think then it actually looks at, other people may look at it and go, actually, he's feeling the same things I'm feeling, right? I think I do enough, but where's the return on investment? I'm actually more visible with my own leadership team, all right? So again, I think that stat that 75% don't feel that all males are allies is shocking, even after this day and age. And I knew that to be the case before, but I didn't really do much about it. Even when people were making snide bar comments, I didn't pull them up on it or sort of say, no, that's not the right thing to do. Whereas now, and maybe because I'm getting a bit older, I pull them up, and then each time I get a comment saying we're focusing too much on DE&I actually double up my efforts publicly just to make sure that the topic and the important message is there. So that visible sponsorship, not just in forums and once a month when someone comes and presents a guest topic at your leadership teams, it should be in every single discussion forum you have. Earlier on, we were talking about people being sort of given the sponsorship to come and shadow individuals around and see what it's like. We have sort of done a step further. I've actually brought our head of DE&I and our people engagement to the leadership table. They work directly for someone else, but they are full-time members of the leadership table. And they are equal members of the leadership table. Because no matter how much we think we are thinking DE&I and inclusion, we don't. We go back to our bad old ways. So having equal members around a dedicated leadership team who are dedicated on these actually keeps that focus and topic there and always. But I think, again, that visible leadership, whether it's in your leadership team, your wider function, globally or regionally or locally, I think we all do some great stuff to sort of be male allies. But I think until we can get this to stop being a project and just becomes the norm, then I think we've got a lot more to do on the male side than on the female side, right? So I think, again, looking around the room, it's great to see so many male allies. I just wonder if we can all go back into our various organizations and go, right, let's just do one or two things differently. And all I can put it down to is just be more visible. That support you're providing and encouraging to individuals, don't stop doing that. But when the wider organization talks about it for half an hour, you make sure they talk about it every day for the next week, next month, and so on. Make it a regular topic and BAU as opposed to a project. Because I couldn't look my mum, my grandmother, my wife or daughter in the eye and see them as a project to get a job in technology. For God's sake, I've got a job in technology. I've made MD in 3 different banks. I have no idea how that's happened, but if I can do it, there's no reason why we can't actually create an opportunity, an equal field for others to follow. Now, all that rambling is my own personal thoughts rather than any experience or skill, but I thought I'll take this first leap into being a more visible sponsor by coming up today. So thank you very much for listening. Apologies for the mad rambling, but hopefully it made some sense to some of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us. Thank you.
Great.